almost gotten into a victim mentality. I was actually watching the news, and there was a story about a lawsuit. The Detroit public school system sued the city and state because they weren't getting the resources they need. And they were absolutely right to do so. The state needed to put more resources in. But then they interviewed a student. And the student went, well, I can't really read. And I thought it was because I was dumb. But now I see that, it's the school's fault. It's like, well, no. If you knew you weren't learning to read, it's your responsibility to find a way to learn. You can't just blame the school system. You're responsible for everything that happens to you to a certain degree. And you have to make that effort to improve yourself, not just say, well, this happened, so I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and again, it gets back to the response. Every action has the cause and effect within it. The situation is the result of the previous action. How we respond determines future consequences. And we talked about Jack Canfield's law when he talks about event plus response equals outcome. Most people's response is to blame the outcome on the event. And blaming supposedly eases your mind by deflecting it away from you, but it solves nothing, and it's only going to come back and bite you again and again and again until you realize that the person in the mirror is responsible for a positive response if they want to make things change. And that's what this is all about.
Right. And as Jack Canfield said, an event is just an event. It's how you respond to it that makes it what it is. And so you have to take responsibility for that response.
Yeah, I mean, applying the law in this one looks pretty good. He talks about 3 different things in applying this law. And he says, number 1, be conscious of the choices that you make. And number 2, what are the consequences of my choices for others and for yourself? And number 3, ask your heart or your higher self for guidance. And usually your first impulse or intuition is the right one. So one of our biggest problems is that our minds are so busy and we always do the what ifs and the yes buts and all that kind of stuff. And if we get more back to the basics, which obviously Deepak is really, really all about, so much so that most of us can't understand it a lot of times, that's what this is all about. Being conscious of the choices, going with your intuition, and really, what's it going to do? What's the consequence for myself? What's the consequence for, what I'm doing for others?
Right. And going with your intuition, it really is very important. To pull another book into the conversation, Malcolm Gladwell's Blink talks all about the fact that in the blink of an eye, you get so much information that you're not consciously registering. So what we think of as intuition is actually your gut response to all of the information you're getting. So it's not just, well, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. You actually have information to make these decisions on. You have to trust yourself to make them.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about positive mindset, and working towards the positive mindset is going to help you out a whole lot. Getting into law 4, it's kind of connecting the dots really between the first 3. This one's the law of least effort. And it says, do less and accomplish more. Do nothing and accomplish everything. When actions are motivated by love, there is no effort. The moment is exactly as it should be. And what this is talking about is accepting people's and situations and events as they recur, taking responsibility for your situation and for all the events. So it's a logical, law number 4 for the first 3 ahead of it. And the bottom line is that if you are practicing the law of karma in what's going on in your life, you're going to really need less effort to accomplish things, and you're going to accomplish a whole lot more just by doing that and being in the right mindset.
Yeah, this is a law that I certainly appreciate, especially as an operations guy, because when you're putting processes together, this is the ultimate goal right here, is you want everything to go as smoothly as possible with very little friction. You want everything to be able to move through. So this is a huge goal. Now, I had a problem when he started getting into the nitty-gritty, because he started saying, even when you set your goals, if things take you away from that goal, you have to accept that. That's fine. And just, take whatever comes. I don't know any really successful person that has put forward a goal and then been fine if it didn't happen.
Yeah, totally understood. But what he's talking about, as far as, maybe it's the way that again, a lot of this has to do with response. And one of the things that he talks about is, instead of running after happiness, tap into the happiness that surrounds you. In other words, appreciate what's out there. And again, if you can pause for a minute and do that, the answer might be right there. It might come to you right away, just by looking into the happiness that surrounds you and understanding that there are solutions out there. And if you just silence yourself without thinking, a lot of times all of a sudden something hits you, and that's it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, you do need to be able to appreciate what's around you. Um, Again, the difficulty I had with this one is where he's essentially saying, to be really successful, be happy with what you already have. And it's like, and that's great. But that's, it's sort of lowered expectations. I'm happy when nothing goes wrong. But it's human nature to want more. And I think also, when you're pushing forward, especially for a big goal, something that's really going to affect people and help people, the whole reason you're doing this is because you're not happy with the situation as is, because you see things that need to be changed. And in fact, most of the great accomplishments that people make are because they see something that's not right and they want to fix it.
Yeah.
And I think this sort of takes away from that.
Yeah, I mean, thinking deeper about Deepak in this one, though, instead of running after happiness, tap into the happiness that surrounds you. Nature functions with effortless ease. If you kind of put, humanity and your business partners and so on and so forth into that nature function, and you're working in collaboration with that, perhaps that's what he's subconsciously driving towards, is that, instead of going it alone, the happiness that surrounds you includes the circumstances that surround you, the people that you're working with, and their brilliance and that kind of thing. So,
and that's very possible, because every successful person has other people that they rely on, has other resources they rely on, and they do need to work in harmony with all of that.
Yeah, and if we're working on a project, we always talk about doing the things that we're good at and delegating things out that we're not good at to complete the project. So that really kind of falls really right into place with that, and that tap into what you can do well, and then understand that everything out is out there for you.
And that also comes back up in Law 7, so we'll get to that shortly.
Absolutely. So moving into law number 5, this is straight out of the law of attraction. This is the law of attention and desire. And whatever we put our attention on grows stronger in our lives. Intentions and desires released into silence have infinite organizing power. We can create the future we want by living in the present, which is, obviously that's one of his big things that he talks about. Not for the 2 or 3 weeks at a time, like we talk about in law number one, talking about getting into silence and just letting it kind of come to you by doing that without thinking, and so on and so forth. Because the bottom line is, there's a whole lot out there that we can't possibly put into words. And so if we can just put our attention and desire into that, and kind of see what's coming there by, waiting for it and meditating and things like that a bit, things get organized and sometimes happen that way. So, and that's one of the, whoever's talking about the law of attraction, that's a big part of it, is intention and desire, and just trusting that it's going to happen.
I think there was also a little more to that, because a lot of what I took away from that law was, what are your goals? What are you looking to do? If you're simply looking to make money or get something tangible for yourself, that's not going to take you anywhere. But if you're working on a project that's going to make your neighborhood better, your your country better, your world better. When you're trying to accomplish something that's bigger than yourself. See, that's what I took away from this, is that was really what the intention and desire was. It's really about putting other things before yourself and working for the greater good. And as you do that, you get more and more of what you wanted anyway.
Yeah, it's really getting back to working on your purpose and your why, which we talk about all the time, and making your list of desires, putting together your personal strategic plan for every part of your life. And if you make that list of desires and write it down and so on, and that's in front of you, we talk about vision boards and things like that. That's a really, really big part of, the intention side of things, is making that list for the right reason.
Exactly.
So, and then law number 6, the law of detachment, and this is really the faith law. It's based upon our unquestioning belief in the power of our own self. Detachment is to live in wealth consciousness. The wisdom of uncertainty allows us to step into the field of all possibilities. So life, live it with passion, but be dispassionate about the outcome. And again, if you're coming from the right space, from your positive purpose and why for good and unconditional giving and that kind of thing, this is really an important law to take a look at, is to detach a little bit and kind of trust that it's going to happen.
Yeah, this law is huge. And again, this is actually one that I had to go back a little bit, because in the book, he actually explains it fairly badly. Because he talks about, well, to achieve your goal, separate yourself from the goal. And from a practical standpoint, that simply does not work. What was actually trying to say is that, going back to the 5th law, focus on what the intent is. Because the goal you've put together to get to that intent may not work, but you will find a better way to get to the intent. And this is something that's actually very, very common in military parlance. It's actually called the commander's intent, because every soldier knows a plan never survives contact with the enemy. So when you're hitting the ground, when you're out there, the commander's not there. You have to be able to make changes on the fly based on circumstances. And what they're trained to do is keep the ultimate intent in mind. If they have to get there a different way, that's fine. And I think that's really what he's talking about. But the way he explained it, you had to go back a couple of times to go, wait a minute, what did he just say?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of summary statements that I saw there that do kind of put things together nicely with this is allowing yourself and others the freedom to be who they are, not trying to force solutions, allowing them to spontaneously emerge. And uncertainty is going to happen, and sometimes it's essential for the path to freedom here. So,
yes.
Again, I think this one, he may have overcomplicated this by talking. Perhaps this book could have been a half an hour instead of an hour and a half or something. So, in fact, we're going to get this done in a half an hour. So maybe you can just listen to this all the time, and you'll have the whole book done.
There you go.
And the 7th and the final law is the law of dharma, and this is your purpose in life. To give is to get. We all have unique talents and a unique way to express them. We're all here for some reason. We're all here to rediscover our higher spiritual self, and we're all here to serve beyond our own ego. And by doing that, we are united with everybody in spirit. So it's basically the essence of why we're here, and collaborating with everybody else, and why they're here too.
Yeah, and this was another one that I thought he didn't do as good a job as he could have describing, because he talks about, everybody has a unique talent, and you're not going to be successful until you figure out what that talent is. But I disagree with the idea that everybody is born with a unique talent. I think many people are very capable of developing that talent. And, I think a great example of that is Michael Jordan. In his early days, he was an absolutely horrible basketball player. He was told he would never play. and he decided that was what he